welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this Thursday night football DFS Showdown slate on Draftkings for Week 11. Before we get into it, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you will be notified for any future content that I upload. That'd be greatly appreciated. And I have released multiple NFL Patreon packages linked below in the description where you can get access to all of my projections, all of my metric stats, all of my sheets, all of my matchup charts, and all that good stuff. A lot of good stuff going on over there. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down this slate. So we're going to go position by position here. Starting at the top with the two QBs in Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson. Looking at my QB matchup chart, you can see that the Seahawks are the #1 team to target in terms of DK points given up a game to QBs this year. So obviously, Kyler Murray's in a great spot. Cardinals coming at 16th. So not exactly an elite secondary either, and definitely have interest in the quarterback, of course, on a showdown slate. A guy, I think you have to prioritize both of these guys tonight. Sometimes there's some showdown slates where you don't have to play both, but looking at the Vegas lines and all that stuff, with the over/under coming in at 57 consensus in my spreadsheet, I think that we're gonna have to play some quarterbacks tonight. And it all starts with Kyler Murray, like I said. The Seahawks, #1 team to target in terms of DK points given up per game to QBs. And Kyler Murray's just been an absolute DFS stud this year. Looking at his game logs, his last 3 games, he's got 41, 41, 30 DK points just going off. And one of those games was against Seattle. So Week 7 against Seattle, 41.1 DK points. And I think we could see a similar performance here. Definitely have a lot of interest in him. He grades out to be the #1 scoring guy on the slate tonight in my projections. No surprise there. And Russell Wilson on the other side, coming in at, as far as the captain spot's concerned, of course, Kyler Murray is the top option on the slate tonight, but he does come in at that $13K price tag. We'll get into some wide receiver options later in the video, but I do think the wide receiver captain spot could be optimal just because of their price tags and then allowing you to fit in the QBs with them in your lineups. But so Kyler Murray, the first guy. Russell Wilson on the other side of the ball. As I had mentioned, the Cardinals aren't quite as good as a matchup, but being that this game's a high total and they're expected to be in this game, I just think it's going to be a shootout. The total's so high, the spread's at 3. Russell Wilson's going to have to come and throw the ball on the other side to stay up with these two high-octane offenses, so to speak. And after a down week last week, I think he's in a great spot to get back on track to where he was the 3 previous weeks, putting up 35, 28, 29 DK points. And Week 7, like I mentioned, for Kyler Murray, he did play Arizona, and he put up a big score. I mean, last time these two teams got together, the score was 34-37. I think it's going to be high scoring. You can look for a similar game in this one. Prime time on national television. It's just all the stars kind of aligned for a shootout here. 35.9 DK points last time out. So I do have interest in Russell Wilson as well, of course, and he does come in at a cheaper price tag. If you can't quite get up to Kyler Murray, I mean, in my projections, it's not like they grade out to be that much different. Right now, as far as where I have them projected, I have them coming in about, less than a point apart in projections, just from a base projection standpoint. Of course, as I mentioned, Kyler Murray does have the better matchup looking at my matchup chart because the Seahawks are the #1 team to target in terms of fantasy points given up to QBs. But both of these guys are definitely viable tonight. Kyler Murray being my preferred option. And then as far as both their ability to get out and scramble, we can see that the Seahawks have given up quite a bit in the rushing category to quarterbacks as well. And the Cardinals have been a little bit better in that aspect. So, I mean, Kyler Murray's really got it all going on for him tonight. He's definitely the top play of the slate, but his salary shows and reflects that. So, that's the breakdown on the QBs. Moving on to the running back position. These are the guys that I'll be having interest in tonight. Kenny Drake, Chase Edmonds, Carlos Hyde, Chris Carson, and Alex Collins. Looking at, the injury report for Carson because I know he's questionable. I don't know if he's going to be playing tonight. I haven't projected as in. Looking at the report, it says Coach Pete Carroll noted Wednesday that the Seahawks will, quote, wait until tomorrow to make a decision on Carson's foot availability for Thursday night's game, but he did practice and look good and all the stuff he did. So we're real close. So I would assume that Carson's going to be back this week. I don't think they are going to play him until he's really fully 100% healthy, and I do think he's good to go. So I'm projecting him as in. Right now, I do have him as my third or fourth running back, however. just based on the fact that he's returning in his splits with Carlos Hyde in the backfield. So I don't really think he's necessarily a top priority of mine, just factoring in his salary and everything, because he is the top priced running back. I'm not against playing him. It's just that's where he stands right now. That could, of course, change throughout the day, but come Thursday. But yeah, that's where I stand anyway. So breaking down these running backs and kind of their share and everything, we can see that on my running back matchup chart, as far as how both these teams have fared against running backs, the Cardinals are the 14th best team to target, and the Seahawks are the 17th best team to target. Both teams doing pretty well at not giving up a lot of yards on the ground, to be honest. But I have noticed a trend in the receiving category. Both teams have really struggled against running backs that can excel in catches out of the backfield. So that could be something interesting to look at. And when looking at my running back metric chart over here, as far as Kenny Drake, Carson, and Edmonds, the number one running backs, you can see, I mean, Kenny Drake and Edmonds, they're kind of a split. And then you got Carson here, snap share, 50, 60. None of these guys are really dominant back as far as the snap share in the backfield. So, but as far as targets are concerned, it's definitely Chase Edmonds who leads these running backs in targets out of the backfield. And I think that he could be a sneaky play on tonight's slate with the matchup chart that we had gone over in the receptions out of the backfield. His last 4 games, you can see 2 targets, 7 targets, 3 targets, 3 targets. Pretty consistent compared to his counterpart in Kenyon Drake, who, when looking at his game logs, hasn't really received a lot of targets. 1, 2, 2, 1. So I definitely think that Edmonds has some sneaky upside with that being factored in. And then when you're looking at the juke rate, the evaded tackles, and all that stuff, these running backs really kind of grade out to be relatively even outside of the breakaway run rate, where I do think that Chase Edmonds has a huge advantage in that category. So Chase Edmonds, a guy that I think has sneaky upside tonight, a guy that I definitely have interest in compared to the Seahawks side of the ball. Of course, it's a showdown slate, so you got to be playing the guys that are going to be scoring the touchdowns. So you're always touchdown hunting, so to speak. And it'll be interesting to see how Carlos Hyde is impacted with Carson coming back. And, of course, Hyde was just out for 3 games himself. So his role, I don't know. This Seattle Seahawks backfield is going to be an interesting one, because I think it's going to be a little unpredictable as to where the volume's going. So kind of a shot in the dark there as far as I'm concerned when we're breaking this down. Tight ends. Moving along to tight ends. It does look like Daryl Daniels hasn't practiced all week. As you can see, I have him highlighted in yellow, and I have Dan Arnold highlighted in green. And the reason that I have Dan Arnold highlighted in green is because with Williams being limited in practice this week and Daniels not practicing at all, I do think that we could see an increased target share for him when looking at my tight end matchup chart and seeing how both of these teams stack up in terms of how we want to target them. We can see that the Cardinals are the 22nd best team to target in terms of tight ends, and the Seahawks are the 29th best team to target in terms of tight ends. So the Seahawks have been very, very good against the tight end position, unfortunately. So that's one thing I would put a little bit of a disclaimer on as far as his upside. However, if both of these guys are limited, I mean, I think we could see Dan Arnold get a huge bump in target share, a huge bump in volume. And I do have him graded out as a slight follow-up to Greg Olson's projection on tonight's showdown slate. So I think that he's a little bit of a sneaky play. And I'm definitely interested in him more than I would be normally. So Dan Arnold, a guy to keep an eye on. I think he's a sneaky play tonight. I think that he's kind of my Dark Knight play, so to speak. He could definitely have higher volume than normal, and we've seen last week he had 4 targets, 7 fantasy points. Week 7, 3 targets against the same Seattle team. He had 7 fantasy points, and he has yet to get in the end zone. I think that his shot of getting in the end zone is going to be a lot larger tonight. And, that's kind of where I'm playing my flag on Dan Arnold. I think he's a great play. My number 1 projected tight end is Greg Olsen, though. Taking on this Arizona team, I think that Greg Olsen definitely is the number one tight end I would be playing if I'm playing a tight end and looking to get sneaky. Less sneaky than Arnold, of course, but I think that he grades out to be the top scoring tight end. Looking at his game logs, 4 targets, 3 targets, 4 targets, 3 targets, pretty consistent. No big numbers, though, really. Hasn't found the end zone. So, I mean, the tight end position, I'm looking to play Arnold if I'm looking to play a guy and get sneaky. So that would be my breakdown there. And then moving along to wide receivers. Of course, you have DeAndre Hopkins after that huge play last week. Everyone's has him in the back of his mind making that leaping grab in the end zone with a Hail Mary last end of the play. Maybe he gets some higher ownership because of it. Who knows? But he's definitely my number one projected wide receiver on this showdown slate. And he's projected. I mean, he's priced. So I mean, he comes in at a 10-8 price tag, and for good reason. The guy's target share is tremendous. He has been involved in this offense a ton. 12 targets. Week 9 was a little bit of an outlier with 3 targets. He had 12 targets against Seattle the week before, and as I had mentioned, this game was a shootout before, and I think it's going to be a shootout again. He had 28 DK points in that game. And on the other side of the ball, my top 2 guys to target, it all starts with DK Metcalf and then Tyler Lockett. DK Metcalf last week put up a little bit of a dud. He only had 4 targets, and that matchup with Jalen Ramsey, he wasn't able to get it going. But this week, he gets another good matchup against Arizona. He put up a dud in the last matchup, only 5 targets, but the 2 weeks before, he had 15 targets, 9 targets, 43 and 26 DK points, and I think we could see him get back on track more along those lines in this one. And then don't forget Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett comes in at 9-4. He is he is questionable. But he's expected to play, so I'm not really too worried about him. I think he's good to go. I think it's just a cautionary, questionable tag. And he grades out as the most upside value as far as I'm concerned at his price tag, coming in at 9-4 on Draftkings tonight. I think he has the most upside, comparative to his price tag. I think he could go off and be a good investment, and especially in the captain spot at only 14-1. I think you could jam him in and then be able to fit in some more studs like a Russell Wilson, a DK Metcalf, a DeAndre Hopkins, a Kyler Murray type of deal. And I do think that when looking at his game logs, there's some recency bias going on because his last 3 weeks he's really put up duds. But if you look at his performance in Week 7 against Arizona, that was that game he put up 56 DK points. So I don't know if people are going to see that and think, oh, I got to play him because he scored 56 DK points. I'm hoping they're more so looking at the last 3 weeks. But I do think that he's a sneaky upside play. Definitely my top upside, per dollar play, so to speak. And I have a lot of interest in him. And then just breaking down, how these teams have fared against wide receivers. On my wide receiver matchup chart, you can see the Seahawks are the number 1 team to target in terms of wideouts, and the Cardinals are the number 15 team to target. So Seahawks, as always, giving up just tons of fantasy points to these wide receivers. And then when looking at the target share of these guys in these offenses, it all starts with Hopkins, Lockett, Metcalf, and Moore. So Moore would be the next guy that I'm going to be mentioning. Definitely involved in this offense more so than Christian Kirk on the other side of the ball. And when looking at his price tag, he comes in at 4.8. So very affordable, and his involvement in this offense has really stuck out. 3 targets, 3 targets, 6 targets, 3 targets, 4 targets, 3 targets. So it's not like a huge amount of targets going his way, but for his price tag, I think it kind of is. And I do think that he has some good upside at his price tag. So more, comparing him to kind of like a Dan Arnold, those 2 guys are really sticking out in my model as far as their upside at their projection. Like him. And yeah, it just comes down to, of course, we're looking at target share. So DeAndre Hopkins, top of the slate with a 30% target share in his offense. I like him a lot, of course, followed by Lockett, then DK Metcalf, then Moore, then Kirk, then Fitzgerald. So, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, as I mentioned, top guy on the slate. But when we're looking at upside and average target distance, DK Metcalf tops that in 14.9 yards per target distance. That's his average targeted distance, so he's going deep on those deep balls, followed up by Moore, Kirk, and Lockett. DeAndre Hopkins lacks in that category, but of course, when we're going over to his true catch rate, he dominates in that. Yards per reception, it's those same 3 guys, Metcalf, Moore, Kirk, so I think they're your high upside options. And then when looking at contested targets, 14 and 17, and then contested catches, 6 and 7, so Metcalf and Moore, you're definitely getting the job done. Like I said, Moore I think is a sneaky play, especially on the showdown slate. And then red zone targets, these top 3 guys are really who you're looking at, and Christian Kirk's a little bit sneaky in that category as well because he has been getting some red zone work. But red zone, these top 3 guys, Hopkins, Lockett, Metcalf, no surprise there. They're the top targeted guys in terms of end zone targets, and they're the guys that are going to be most likely to get in that end zone tonight. And the only thing I'd mention as far as separating these 3 guys is at the bottom, the contested catch conversion rate is very low for DK Metcalf compared to Lockett and Hopkins. So, that's my overall breakdown of these wideouts, who I would be looking to play. As far as on the sneaky end, and some other wideouts that we might be able to have some interest in. I mean, I'm not really all too interested in Isabella, Swain, and Keyshawn Johnson. If I were to pick my favorite of the group, it would definitely be Isabella, just with his involvement in the offense and his price tag. And I just have him projected at the top between these 3. And on the sneaky end, maybe a Freddie Swain. I'm not looking to touch Keyshawn Johnson tonight. I don't think everyone's viable on a showdown slate. I don't want to say that he's not viable because literally everyone's viable on a showdown slate. You can always get different. You can always be sneaky. But when looking at his snap share, he only plays on 7.9% of snaps compared to 33 and 29 for Isabella and Swain. So I think that those 2 guys are, more viable, and I would start with Isabella. And then comparing their price tags over here, we can see that Isabella's priced at $2K and Swain's priced at 1.2. So, I mean, I think they're priced appropriately. Swain might have a little bit more leverage in his price tag down 800 more, but I'll start with Isabella as far as I'm concerned. And that is pretty much my overall breakdown of tonight's Thursday night NFL DFS Showdown slate. If you enjoyed the content, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any future content that I upload. And then don't forget to check out my Patreon packages, linked below in the description, where you get access to all my sheets, all this good stuff that I got going on. Excited about that, and I'm excited about tonight's slate. So I wish you all the best of luck tonight, and we will see you later on in the week breaking down the Sunday main slate on DraftKings. Good luck, everybody.